Bene, bentornati tutti su Radio Italia 1 Adelaide, io sono Simone Berliat e questo è AgriAdventures. AgriAdventures, per chi non lo sa, è un programma che si occupa di produzione di cibo ed agricoltura, ma abbinato a quello che è il mondo del turismo e dell'ospitalità. Nella puntata di oggi siamo venuti a trovare Willa. Ok. Lui non è italiano, I'm still speaking Italian, lui non è italiano, quindi ci trasferiremo a parlare inglese come al solito e devo spiegare un attimo che cos'è AgriAdventures anche lui, perché lui non sa la radio che cosa sta facendo. Ok, so what I'm saying to the people that's following us today, Willa, is that Radio Italia 1 Adelaide is cooperating with AgriAdventures in the promotion of local food producers, and that they are interested to be present on the local scene in Adelaide. So Radio Italia 1 Adelaide obviously is an Italian radio, and it is a community radio.
Yeah.
So what we do, or what they do, is to share the voice in the community and share between the people in the area, which is, I think, is something that we all like.
Yeah.
So now let me introduce you to the people that's following us. So you are Willa Wauchope. Wauchope. I got it. I got it. Oh, lovely. So Willa Wauchope, and you are originally from Scotland.
Well, our surname is originally Scottish, but
okay.
we're originally from England.
From England. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's dangerous. At least. And you moved over here like quite a while ago, like 30 years ago?
Well, to be honest, I was born here.
Okay.
I was born here, lived here till I was 7, and then went to England and did all my schooling in uni over in England.
Okay.
So growing up, we actually had a house in both countries, in England and here in Australia. And we also had a farm actually in northern New South Wales at one point. We had 7,000 acres. We had a cotton farm up there, or cotton and wheat.
Okay, so that's something I didn't know. Your family is working in the farm industry for quite a long time.
Yes, but also indirectly. So my father was doing aerial crop spraying. So he was a pilot and was doing that. So the reason we were in all these different places is he had a aerial crop spraying business in northern New South Wales, in Adelaide, and in York Peninsula, Adelaide Hills, all throughout South Australia, and over in England as well. So we had lots of movements.
So you had to move quite a lot between the two countries, like every 6 months?
So growing up, I'd go backwards and forwards 2 to 3 times a year in school holidays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite, maybe stressful? No.
No.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was good fun.
Ah, okay.
We went up.
Okay, that's good.
I went up into the cockpit a couple of times. Sat with the pilot in a 747, which you can't do anymore, obviously.
Yeah, no, now you can't anymore.
And grew up with aeroplanes. So my father had a little plane, and we used to do a bit of flying. He once picked me up from school in England, landed on the playing field, and picked me up, and we flew back home.
Wow, that was cool. It was like, guys, I'm a cool guy of the pack.
Well, it was
no
just,
taxi for me.
It was just what happened. So that's what we grew up with.
That's cool. So interesting. So already 2 countries since you're born over here. 2 countries been living and traveling.
So I was in England and basically just going backwards and forwards, and ended up coming here. I came back here because on several of my trips here, my now wife, I kept kind of bumping into, and in the early days, I was still going back to England, and I at one point just went, "What am I doing? Why am I leaving? I'm not leaving her. I'm staying here," and that's why I stayed.
Oh.
And then Mary and I got married.
Nice.
Yeah, and
stayed for love.
Yeah, there's no better reason.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no better reason. So now I wonder, but you've been living, you said, close by, or?
So this property
Yeah, tell us a little bit
so-
about the connection between you and Glen Ewin estate,
So
just to understand, because
Bill and Wendy,
Yeah.
my parents, had a property in North Adelaide and other areas, and they decided they wanted to get away from that and bought this place in 1991.
Mhm.
So this property is called Glen Ewin Estate.
Mhm.
It's 70 acres, and it's it's a very historic property. So it was settled in the 1840s, or the main house was built in the early 1840s.
Okay.
So very early for the area,
Yes.
by a man called George McEwen. George McEwen was a horticulturalist, so he basically planted fruit. Well, he planted vines and was one of the very earliest vineyards and wineries here in South Australia.
Ah, so
So-
there is this race between McLarenville and over here, because I like based over there, and they
Yeah.
did almost the same, like 39, 40, 1840, they were
Yeah.
already planting, 43 I think.
Yeah,
It was the,
very early, like 44, I think, was when the vineyard went in.
uh-huh.
And basically he stopped doing wines after maybe 20 years or 20 odd years, because he found some of his workers inebriated, and he was a deeply religious man, and he then said, okay, that's it, this is all wrong, and he literally knocked the corks out of the massive vats, these huge timber vats, and changed from that into more fruit production. And in 1862 he began making jams and chutneys and sauces, and within 3 months he was bringing up to 100 tons of fruit in to the property. It just exploded like that.
Wow.
And all of the infrastructure on the property grew up from that jam and food manufacturing, and they actually did it under lots of different labels and contract manufactured for lots of people.
So it was really a business person, because moving from one business to the other in that way, and then going immediately to that scale.
Yeah.
I'm quite jealous. Like, I'm trying to do the same with AgriAdventures. It's probably not the same anymore. I can say.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
I
not
think-
probably the same anymore.
I think there wasn't very much competition. There was lots of demand, and you think about it. This business historically serviced both of particularly the Second World War, was sending troops tins of fig jam because it made them feel at home.
Ooh,
So there's some interesting war history here as well.
wow. So you were supplying the products to troops going back in Europe,
Yeah,
fighting in the Second World War.
yeah.
And now where are these jams? I didn't hear about. A little bit tricky, am I?
No, we up until a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, we were still making jams and chutneys and things,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually wanted to change the business model. So somebody approached us, and they asked if they could do the manufacturing and distribution for us,
Mm-hmm.
and we agreed to that, and they were going to pay us a royalty. Turned out that arrangement didn't work, and within 3 or 4 months it was evident that it was never going to work, so we pulled the pin on that. And at that point in time we then developed a new product, which was our gin, our fig gin,
Mm-hmm.
and that product has been really successful, so we've been pushing that as opposed to the jams and chutneys.
In that direction. Okay, I was skipping a little bit forward in the interview. So I was trying to understand when it was the moment in which you moved over here, and then your family bought this property, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you as family, you moved over here. So when in time, when that happened?
1991.
1991. So
Yeah.
1991, family moved over here, and you bought the property.
Yeah.
And then you decide to start hospitality, because that's
Not
what
really.
it is.
No.
Oh,
So we
okay.
didn't start with hospitality.
Okay.
We bought the property because it had lots of promise. It was, to be honest, it was a total wreck. That we took 7 semi-trailer loads of scrap metal off the property. We've rebuilt every single building and restored it. And basically we are continuing to restore and redevelop the property. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous.
What made you do
Potential.
that?
The reason
Oh,
for
you've
coming
seen
here
the
was
future.
look at these amazing buildings. Surely we can do something with them, and that was enough. This property, because of its history, and there are these beautiful old trees here, it feels a bit more European.
Exactly.
And having lived in England for such a long time, this is one of the few properties in South Australia that has a very European feel to it.
So it's giving you the connection of both countries, actually. You're having the connection of Australia and Europe in the same place, because one of the things that I felt in love when I came over here was walking down the pathway over there close by the factory, and seeing these buildings that they were reminding me something to me. There was a connection deep in seeing the handmade stone walls.
So all of the stone for the buildings that are here was quarried from a quarry that's on the property. So it doesn't actually belong to the property anymore, but it's just over the main road. So it's now the local gun club where the original quarry was. But that's the sandstone for all of the buildings.
Everything.
And at that time, it was part of this property.
Building in here.
And can you imagine doing that by hand?
Oh, look, I tell you, I have to do something in Bulgaria when I was renewing the house over there that my mom is using as a farm stay. And obviously to set it the standards, we had to build the toilets and everything. But because there is not services over there, we're completely out. So I had to build all the septic tanks and everything. And I had to dig the hole with the axe pick, like 2 meters deep.
Yeah.
And then the first meter it was fine.
I bet that was fun.
Yeah. the second part was when I got to the clay, that there were clay and pedals.
Okay.
So I was making sparks.
Oh.
That was the first and the last time I did something like that. And the best thing was that back that time, it was when there was the fashion of the ice bucket challenge.
Yeah.
And everybody they were icing bucket, and I was digging the hole. Said, "This is my challenge. Stop to do that stupid thing. That is real one." Even though it was helpful. Sorry, I just have to remind everyone that sometimes I have to check if everything is fine. So when I check my phone, it's not because I'm looking for Facebook, but just because I want to make sure that it's recording and everything is fine.
Okay.
Because my mom told me that. Well, she told me off. She told me you have to check. You have to speak with your guest. You don't have to look at the phone. Say, I'm not looking at the phone. So, and then you moved over here, and then you've seen the potentiality between the place, and then since that you're trying to evolve it.
So what happened then is a family friend asked if they could get married here, and so the very first wedding was a family friend, and we said, yep, not a problem. And then one of their guests asked if they could get married here, and it turns out that person, that particular wedding was absolutely beautiful. We didn't have any kitchens, and everything was brought in, but the sister of the girl that got married was the editor for Vogue Australia, and so it went into Vogue Australia magazine, and it just grew from there. That was us doing our weddings and functions and events.
So it became wedding and functions and events. So then from there, that you're keeping building, and then you're moving a little bit in this kind of hospitality.
Correct.
That you have. Okay, so you're evolving in that direction.
And then 10 years ago, we actually built this building that's behind us, which is called the Gatehouse. It was originally the stable block. So the lower level was cobbled, and then the upper level was, I think it was just dirt. Carriages went in the top, and then the horses were in the lower section.
Okay. That's why the pictures, I've seen some of the pictures over there.
That's correct. And this building still has those 2 levels on it. So it's also built to replicate the original building. So the roof line is exactly the same as the original building. So we wanted to give it, we wanted to pay tribute to the original building.
Maintain a little bit. Now you have a question, just that is kind of like I was trying to ask you since that first time I came here. It was why there is a zebra down there. It's like, I walked in the first time and said, zebra, traditional Australian zebra.
Well,
if it's possible to say, I don't know.
I'll tell you the story that I tell everybody.
Okay.
So
I'm not the first one asking about. No.
My grandfather was actually one of the youngest captains in the Royal Navy, and he at one point in time he was in fact the captain on the Queen's private yacht because he was so well recognised in the Navy. And he attempted to take a carriage to Buckingham Palace pulled by zebras.
Okay.
I don't know whether it was successful or not, but because of that we have a bit of a thing for zebras.
We have zebras. Okay, that's good. That's really good.
When we did the building plans for this and submitted them to the local council, we actually drew zebras instead of cows in the paddock up here. So and nobody noticed at all. So we were expecting the council to go, what's that? But they didn't.
They didn't.
No.
They said they're not important.
Yeah.
They're not using water. No.
Exactly.
Interesting. So far, because I also involved in the startup ecosystem over here in South Australia, developing the business under the last release, as I say, Visa. I'm also like to speak a little bit about what's the meaning and the difficulties of develop a business here in South Australia. And do you have anything to share, like considering it's almost 30 years?
There's in fact lots of different businesses on this property. So I'll come back to your question in a second, but we've got the hospitality part of the business, which is weddings and events. We also have a restaurant and cellar door.
Okay.
We do temperature controlled wine storage for clients. So we've got,
yes, that's beautiful. You have to come to see it because it's beautiful.
In this sort of lovely underground storage area. We have the fig orchard, so there's 12,000 fig trees on the property, which is in effect a separate business. We also make wine and we also make gin. So there's lots of different areas. I think that the biggest challenge across all of those things are finding the right people to do the things that you need to get done.
Yes.
And if you have the right people, things happen quite effectively. If you have the wrong people, it can become quite difficult. And in our business, which is hospitality, there's always a little bit of staff movement because they're often young, they're at uni and they've finished their degree and they go off and get a real job.
Exactly.
But when you get it right, things move along really well. So I would, in any new business that's starting up, if it's not just yourself, then I would say build strong teams. If it is yourself, then don't be put off by knockbacks. Don't be put off by challenges. Challenges simply make you better at what you're doing, because every challenge is an opportunity to do something different, and every challenge is an opportunity to do it a bit better.
I agree.
To navigate around it.
I agree. It's actually, I brought the example, first time I came over here to speak with you, I brought it as example to other people in the startup ecosystem, because you were the first real big business that I was getting in contact with, and then you gave me all the questions that they were like normal questions for a business in hospitality that is already having a booking system, is already having a number of customers, is already having different platform of promotion. And then you gave me all these questions, and all these questions, they were like hammers, like to every single one is like oops. Okay, I was not ready for that, but they gave me the opportunity to explore and to see the competition, to see if there was still a chance to do something that was good and if I was going the proper direction. So it's I think what you said is probably the key. Like go outside, get hammered a few times, because that is going to be helpful for you. And
keep finding the best way to do it. Here's an example. For years we've been doing pick your own fruit. for pretty much since we started. And I actually redeveloped the orchards. So the orchards had, when we first came here, the fig orchard was a total disaster. Animals had knocked down or damaged most of the trees. One section of the oldest trees were, maybe 25, 30 feet or 10 meters tall, completely covered with blackberries, completely and utterly covered with blackberries, over, say, a 5-acre patch. So big. I went and cut all the trees down and completely started from scratch. We've replanted and redeveloped all the trees. So going back to the pick your own, we used to literally do that from the shed door, and we'd be picking our fruit, and I'd have my commercial pickers out there, and people would just come and buy a little bit. But they were missing out on the real experience, and the real experience we developed because we've done some landscaping down in the centre of the orchard. We have a lawn which is about 140 metres long and 40 metres wide, with an avenue of plane trees either side, going about 400 metres through the property. And 4 years ago, I decided to share that space. So we built a little bar in the orchard, which we call the fig bar. And from that space, we run our pick your own. So that year, I had people coming up to me going, "Thank you so much for sharing this amazing property." And in the last 4 years, it's grown in popularity, and we open our doors 7 days a week now to all public when the fig picking is on. And it is, you come and spend a day here. It's a really beautiful experience because you can pick perfect fruit, eat a bit, have a glass of wine, sit in the orchard, bring your family. It's a really good thing to do. It connects.
Yes, and that is why also I'm developing AgriAdventures, which is I'm trying to bring back people in connection with the environment in which we are, with the use of these kind of experiences. Because not everyone, we are always super curious about where food is coming from. Many of us, we want to just be relaxed and enjoy, but sitting and smell and taste and be surrounded.
There's nothing better. I mean, you can't do it in a supermarket. And another reason for going this way is we used to supply supermarkets, and it was a very, very frustrating experience because we'd be asked to pack perfect fruit, and it would get to the destination, one of the supermarkets, and they'd reject it.
Yes.
Over and over and over again, for no good reason. I could go on and on about it, but there's no point. So we changed our business model to be more fruit picking, pick your own, and we don't ever get complaints. People love the product, love the experience, and you cannot get better fruit than something that you picked yourself.
Yes, and then you learn from the experience. Yeah. And then when you learn from the experience, the next time you go to buy something that is not fresh, that is not local, you will taste it. You will get it. That's not real.
I'm sure everybody listening knows figs quite well, given it's the Italian radio station. But a lot of people may not know that as soon as you pick a fresh fig, it never gets better than that point. It only gets softer. It doesn't sweeten up like a banana does when you pick it. So you have to pick it and eat it when they're perfect. And here you have an opportunity to do that. You can't possibly do that in a supermarket.
No, absolutely. But many other products, you should do that where they are coming from.
Of course you should. There's some integrity and a genuine connection to the land then, which I think is missing. Children don't know where fruit and vegetables come from.
No.
So this experience is educational for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we are moving a little bit in the vision, I can say. So what's the vision that you're trying to connect? There are, like, I sensing different visions.
Well, there are different parts of the business. There are different pathways for different parts of the business. We want to continue to grow the pick your own and share that experience because it's such a great thing. You can see how, I love it. It's the best time of the year for me. From that produce, we now make our gin, and in a year and a half, or a little over a year with a distributor, we're in 300 shops across Australia, probably more now, and so there's a separate vision for that. So we'd like to double the footprint next year and export that product.
Okay.
So I'd probably go into Europe first, but we are looking through some of the other countries as well.
Okay.
We were making jams and chutneys as we talked about earlier, but our probably probably our most significant product we did was a chocolate covered glacé fig. So we will remake those next year because we get people asking for them almost every day.
Yeah,
they love that product, and we used to export that. We've exported that to Italy, to England, to America, to Singapore, to Japan, and then we sort of pulled back on that to focus on other things, but we'll sort of slowly ramp that up, albeit in a slightly different way, next year.
Yeah, well, I personally, I will be really curious to obviously come over and do the figs experience, but also maybe because I'm Italian, maybe because I like to know what there is behind everything. Like I like to know plants, how they grow, how fruits, all these kind of things. Also, coming over here in Australia and learning about the history of Australia is something that to me it amazed me. Like it's maybe because it's not told much about it. Like I came here as international tourist in 2009, the first time. I've been in Adelaide for 10 months. Never knew about this place, and that is why also I'm considering AgriAdventures to connect with the businesses in the area, and that is what I believe we're interested to as international tourists. So coming over and learn more what was the history behind Australia, South Australia, which seems it's ignored or is part of a small half-an-hour tour, but that is not true because there's so much to say.
There is
that you can spend your day. I mean, I'm organizing this tour in McLaren Vale where I speak about McLaren Vale, and I start.
The local history is in fact fascinating, and a lot of people sort of brush over it quite rapidly.
Yeah,
we connect with one of the local historic societies, and they actually do conduct tours up here, history tours.
Okay.
And we've talked about that, about maybe opening that up and doing it a bit more regularly, both through AgriAdventures and through the Tea Tree Gully Historical Society.
Yes.
We have some old documents from the early 1880s, which are the original letters.
It was in the Universal show in Paris?
Yes, well, a lot of products were exhibited. No, but there's a lot more information.
Yeah, a lot of products. I went downstairs and saw, what? No, where am I?
We've got the original letter books and employment books from the 1880s all the way up to probably the early 70s, 1970s, when the history then, we just don't know where those documents went. And they're quite fascinating because it tells a little bit about what life was like, who they were dealing with, are those businesses still in business, and what produce they were buying at the time. And there are still records in there of names of people whose families still live in this area. So it's really fascinating.
Really interesting, really interesting. So now I have a question that I would like to ask again is, why did you choose AgriAdventures?
Well, for me it's really simple, because it is a diverse property. I see AgriAdventures as another way to communicate to people what we actually do. Your experience of not knowing us for 10 months is something that we need to try and fix by sharing the property, and we're very open about sharing the property and having people have a good experience here. That's why we have the restaurant. That's why we want people to go for a walk across the property. We share the spaces, and AgriAdventures is another way for us to share that experience.
Well, the connection, something that I I've seen also working in hospitality, create that connection. We are human being. We are getting removed from being human being using this technology, and then what we are missing now is to have this reconnect with people. And that's why bringing people and stay together and go in places like this is one of the vision.
Hospitality is really about connecting people with people and the place. And if we can do that well, I think, and it should be a seamlessness to it, and it's very natural. We simply feel that whenever anybody comes here, they should have the same experience as if you bring them into your home.
Yes.
And that's basic hospitality.
Yes.
Make them feel welcome, and then let people enjoy the space.
And let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so looking to bring over here my son. So Willa, thank you very much
Pleasure.
for your time, and considering the 100 businesses that you're managing, like I have almost not forcing you, but I had to do good works, I have to say.
you have you've been persistent, which has been great.
Yes, I had to. So I'm gonna thank the people who have been following us. Grazie mille perché ci ha seguito attraverso Radio Italia 1 Adelaide. Thank you very much for being following us from the Radio Italia 1 Adelaide, and also from the YouTube channel and Facebook page. Have a look on the Facebook page. You have 2 Facebook pages, right? If I remember right.
Yes,
Would
we
you
do.
like to tell us, just because?
So we have the Glen Ewin Estate Facebook page, and the gin. We actually have 3. The gin one is Pot and Still, and then we have Willa brand, which is for the fresh figs.
For the fresh figs. So have a look if there are events that are popping in over there. You can have a look on AgriAdventures. There should be some over there, other not, because if they're not connected, they're not connected. And come over, because look at this. I mean, I'm gonna stay here today. Thank you very much. Grazie mille a tutti. Se volete lasciare un messaggio potete farlo anche attraverso Radio Italia 1 Facebook page. Have a good day. Ciao.